So this offseason has been pretty turbulent so far, and we've already seen a majority of the big name players make their moves. Klay Thompson is obviously a Dallas Maverick, joining Kyrie and Luka as they look to make another finals appearance next season. And the Paul George move to Philly was also kind of crazy. I think this gives the Sixers an amazing shot at a super deep playoff run out in the East. And I'm also pretty intrigued by the Buddy Hield sign and trade over to the Warriors. He's as good of a Klay Thompson replica as you're gonna get. So with all of this happening, what I wanted to do on this video is break down what teams I think have the most to prove this upcoming season. What's cool is that this previous season, we saw a team with insane expectations actually live up to them. The Celtics had the most pressure on them to perform at a high level last year, given how many deep playoff runs they made over the years with no ring to show for it. And the way they responded in the 2023-2024 season was by being the most dominant team in the league from start to finish, winning their first NBA championship since 2008. So hopefully we can see a team have the same fate as the Celtics did last season. So as a rule of thumb for this video with these rankings, I'm going to rule out the Celtics as they already won a title this previous season and focus on teams that haven't gotten to that level in a while. So the team I'll kick off this conversation with are the LA Lakers. It is no surprise that the Lakers have a ton of pressure on them this season. Since winning that championship in the bubble in 2020, they have been absolutely disappointing. They haven't had a really good regular season the last few years, usually settling for being like a play-in tournament team. And the playoff disappointments have been stacking up. Just this past season, we saw them lose in the first round to the Nuggets in 5 games. We saw that also happen in 2021, where they got outed in the first round by the Suns despite making huge roster additions. And in 2022, they failed to make the playoffs altogether. The best they could do since 2020 was one West Finals appearance in 2023, which is good, but again, Lakers fans aren't satisfied. And let's be honest, the LeBron era here in LA has been pretty weird. Yes, they got that title in 2020, but this inconsistency has been really tough to watch. So hopefully this season is the one where they get back to being convincingly good the entire way through. I'm talking them being like a legit top 3 seed in the West, which they have the talent to do. And people have been critical of it, I get it, but I am excited to see how JJ Redick does as their new head coach. He already has a really good staff with Dake McMillan and Scott Brooks. And on paper, this is still a solid enough team. Is it perfect? No, but there are still good enough options on the roster. The question is, how does Redick optimize those options? And there could be some additional roster moves up their sleeve this summer to boost things a bit. But regardless, Lakers fans want to see this team get back to being really good, and this is the year to do it. Another team with a ton to prove are the Memphis Grizzlies. I said this about Memphis last season. While they were bad due to injuries and guys just missing from their roster, we can't forget what they were before that. They were a legitimate threat in the Western Conference, and they were just a piece away from making a potential West Finals or NBA Finals appearance. And now coming into the season, look at this roster makeup. John Morant, Jaren Jackson Jr., Marcus Smart, Desmond Bane, G.G. Jackson, who was amazing in his first season, and possibly Luke Kennard coming back. That is a really, really good team that is a threat to anyone in the Western Conference. As I said, think about how good they were and how they were on the absolute brink of championship contention before the John Morant situation. They made a few additions to their roster since then, and if healthy, they can be dangerous. So with knowing that, the expectations are very high for this team. And there shouldn't be any excuses at this point. Josh should be playing the entire year, and we know they've shown us in the past just how good they can be when they're all together on the floor. Now is the season for them to put it all together. Their core may be young, but they have a ton of big game playoff experience. So hopefully they can remind folks in the Western Conference of how good they can be. And also on top of that, the league is super wide open right now. There is no clear-cut best team in the West. So this is a roster good enough to take advantage of there being no clear-cut favorite in the Western Conference. So that's Memphis. And another team I'm going to include here on this list are the Cleveland Cavaliers. This is an interesting pick, but hear me out a bit. The Cavs have a very talented core between Darius Garland, Donovan Mitchell, who just signed an extension, and Evan Mobley. And there are still solid role players outside of them like Max Strus, who did have a bit of a down year last season along with Jared Allen, but that is still a good core, a really good core. And last season, they showed off some flashes of dominance before losing some momentum after the All-Star break. But generally, the Mitchell era has been pretty solid. In year 1, they made the first round of the playoffs, and in year 2, they made the second round. And this should be the season where they explode and take it to that next level. And that depends on one thing to me, and that is just how good Evan Mobley becomes. Mobley has been an intriguing young player since his first season in the league as a 7-foot guy with passing ability, extremely good defensive prowess, and solid touch. But we haven't seen him crank things up to that next level just yet through these last 3 seasons. The good news is that he ended off the postseason strong, even with the Cavs losing in the second round to the Celtics. And in that series, he averaged nearly 20 and 10 along with 3 assists. So there have been some signs that he's ready to take that leap. I think an all-star and all-NBA caliber season are reasonable enough expectations for such a talented player like him. And I think that alone could help elevate the Cavs and take them to that next level. Donovan Mitchell sees it. That's why he signed that extension. There is a ton of upside for this Cavaliers team, and it's up to them to finally execute it and put it all together this coming year. The last team I'm going to list off here are the New York Knicks. Let's keep this one very simple. They're in New York for one. That fan base is itching for a return back to the NBA Finals. On top of that, this is a scary good roster with Brunson, Bridges, Hart, Randall, DiVincenzo, and OG Anunoby. We're past the point of being surprised that the Knicks are actually really good again. Now it's time for them to put this thing together and bring a finals appearance to Madison Square Garden for the first time since the late 90s. They've got all the tools that they need to do it outside of size, which they can address later in the offseason. There aren't a ton of holes on the roster. I'm feeling good about the Knicks, and a lot of other people do as well, so the spotlight is going to be on them to perform at a high level, even better than last season where they were the second seed in the East. So those are the 4 teams that I think have the most pressure on them this coming season. Let me know in the comments if there are any that I missed. And hopefully these teams do what they need to do and put things together and finally contend for titles.